Is our thirst for knowledge satiable? Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for another poetry discussion. Now, I want to put something out there real quick that if you're seeing this in the future will mean absolutely nothing to you. But in the moment, today's video is supposed to be a Friday Reads video where I will be discussing the ethics of AI and literature, AI and writing, etc. And I'm just a little bit beat up right now. So that video will be coming tomorrow. It will be a Saturday Reads, but in the Friday Reads playlist here on the channel, the Friday Reads playlist is where I talk about just sort of random things that are literary ideas and my thoughts on those things. Today's video is a poetry discussion which will take place in two different playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist, now over 700 videos strong, and number two being the Robert Frost playlist, a playlist of videos dedicated to the curmudgeonly old man himself. I believe that playlist is now cresting 40 videos strong. The poem in question, For Once, Then Something, by Robert Frost, and it reads as such. Others taunt me with having knelt at well curbs, always wrong to the light, so never seeing deeper down in the well than where the water gives me back in a shining surface picture, me myself in the summer heaven, godlike, looking out at a wreath of fern and cloud puffs. Once, when trying to chin against a well curb, I discerned, as I thought beyond the picture, through the picture, a something white, uncertain, something more of the depths, and then lost it. Water came to rebuke the too clear water. One drop fell from a fern, and lo, a ripple shook whatever it was that lay there at bottom, blurted out, blotted it out. What was that whiteness? Truth? A pebble of quartz? For once, then something. This is, in my opinion, a very underrated Robert Frost poem, and there is something kind of everywhere. Everywhere you look in this poem, there's something worth discussing, but there's a couple of things that I want to talk about, really. So, the Romantics. This poem is often taken as a critique of the Romantics having the idea that there is divine insight through nature. That is not the conclusion of this poem, but I wonder whether a conclusion is at all what it is that our speaker is seeking. Is our speaker simply seeking wonderment and not answer? After all, whatever it is that was briefly seen, something white, something uncertain, something more of the depths, is that meant to be verity? Is that something that our speaker really does want to explore? Or is the mystery of it simply enough for our speaker? It strikes me that the first thing we really see in the well, me myself in the summer heaven, godlike. I want to ask you, is knowledge of self worth anything? Is knowledge of self nice to have? Yeah, sure. It's good to know. Is knowledge of self worth having? Sure. Yes. Know your limits. Know where it is that you break. Know what it is that you can't do. Know what it is that absolutely destroys you. These knowledges are good to have. It is good to know these things about yourself. It is worth having. Is it worth anything well if you know exactly what it is that breaks you, that destroys you, that makes you without capacity. I very much advise you, do not sell that information. It's worth having, not worth giving. And that, I think, is sort of, if I could borrow the sort of nomenclature of the poem, that is the shining surface of this poem. That knowledge of the self that our speaker gains in the well. I looked in and saw myself godlike, rippling on the surface. But what happens shortly thereafter? We get ripples. We get ripples in the water, destroying the image of ourself. We don't get the answers at the end of this poem. What that white thing was below the surface. One drop fell from a fern, and lo, a ripple shook whatever it was there at the bottom, blurred it, blotted it out. What was that whiteness? Truth? A pebble of quartz? For once, then, something. But not anything specific, not anything particular. Is this emblematic of knowledge of the self? This white thing under the surface of the water? Our speaker is looking into the well to find his own reflection, her own reflection, and happens to see something else lurking beneath that surface. What does that something represent? There's a couple different ways I think we can look at it. The speaker is clearly observing his or herself in the water, stating how godlike they look. And then that something happens beyond their reflection. So while and whereas they were looking at themselves, something else, something intriguing, was below the surface of the water. It's an interesting dichotomy for your interpretation of the poem, because I think it is perhaps that. So most poems, they have one thing that forces interpretation. At least one thing, but one big thing. Most poems have one big thing that you have to interpret. And based on that interpret, you learn something about you, not the poem, right? I died for beauty, but was scarce adjusted in the tomb. When one who died for truth was lain in an adjoining room, he questioned softly why I failed. For beauty I replied, the two are one, we brethren are. Emily Dickinson's I Died for Beauty states that truth and beauty are the same thing. Where it is that you put that idea of truth and beauty being the same thing says something about you, not the poem. In this poem, our speaker is admiring his or herself and sees something intriguing under that reflection. Is the intriguing something under the reflection a truth about the self that our speaker will never reach? Blinded by his or her own reflection, will never get to that deeper truth about the self, the truth about the self that the looks don't matter all that much. There's something else inside you, something else going on behind your eyes. That's the important thing. Is that what is represented by this white mystery under the glistening surface of the water? Or is that white something under the glistening surface of the water the actual important truth, an actual important idea? Remember, it's nice to have knowledge of the self, but it's not worth much Is this thing hiding under the surface of the water an important truth which our speaker will never get to because they're too busy being fascinated with themselves? How you answer that question, I think, is what it is in this poem that says something about you. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.